All right, we ended the last lecture talking about professionalism. Now we're going to talk a little bit about handling materials here. Um, it is a important aspect of how you move material, how you handle parts. Parts can be scrapped very easily. Um, as they get moved or put into work holding devices and removed from work holding devices. Sometimes we are taking dead blow hammers and kind of tapping or hammering or making sure that the parts are positioned just right, and we need to be very, very careful of how we handle and move all of those parts. Um, so when we are talking here specifically about handling materials, though, typically it's kind of referred to in terms of heavier objects. So now there is a method to lift and carry those heavy objects. We do offer in class on cranes and rigging that you will need to take so that you'll learn more about how to do that. And of course, all of these things are and can be expensive. So you do need to learn how to properly utilize those pieces of equipment and um, all of the different lifting devices that would be going along with that as well. So we talk about overhead cranes, lift tables, floor jacks, die carts. Sometimes you're going to have forklifts and fork trucks that you would need to maintain. Sometimes these are used to lift and move parts into and out of equipment and machinery. Obviously, if you are loading and unloading heavy parts, there are pinch points. There are potential for those parts to fall and get dropped, so you want to maintain and make sure that you are aware of using all of this uh, equipment correctly. And of course, all of this is geared around making sure that you are working safely, first and foremost, and not going to do any damage to the part, the equipment, or any other employees that are there on the job. So here's a couple of examples. Of course, here in the lab, if we do have bar stock that we are moving to the saw, be careful how you move that around and pay attention to that. None of the parts that we're going to be doing here in the lab are going to be heavy enough that we require cranes, but certainly the vast majority of our employers here in Decatur area do have these type of jobs and these type of machine parts where you will need to get familiar with those types of cranes and lifting devices and different types of straps that would be utilized to lift parts on and off of the machines as well. All right, we also need to be aware of the chemicals that we use in the shop, so we'll go through some of these. You need to be aware of how to read a SDS sheet. So SDS stands for Safety Data Sheet. So it's going to give you all of the information from the manufacturer of that particular product to how to deal with it in terms of spills, how to store it, how to make sure that you are safe, and any hazards that are related to that particular chemical. For us in our shop and in the labs, most of what we're using are different types of lubricants or coolants. So, and different types of tramp oils that might become part of the actual machine. So, cutting fluids as well. So, we'll go over some of those and how they are stored in the actual machinery, in the machine. We'll also kind of go through how to set up and make sure that our coolant is correct for that using certain devices called a spectrometer to make sure that we are having the right mix. So pay attention and know that we will kind of go over that in these classes as well. All right, so here are an example of an SDS sheet. So it is your right to know. This is, of course, required by OSHA. You will also hear this in our area. Many people still kind of refer to this as the MSDSs, although the material safety data sheets, although that is no longer correct terminology. That was dropped back in about 2007 or 2008. Well, no, I'm sorry that as I recall, the changeover from MSDS to SDS, I think occurred about 10 years ago, somewhere between like 2013 and 2014, as part of the global harmonization system. So it has been a while, but now they are referred to safety data sheets, although you do still hear a lot of people refer to them as MSDSs. So we're also going to be talking here about how to manage your workspace and maintaining and keeping a clean work environment. An organized work environment is highly important to help you in terms of your productivity and safety. So a cleaner environment is going to be, and a more organized environment is definitely going to be a much safer environment to work in. This is an area that some of us, of course, struggle a lot more than others. It is worth taking the time to make sure that everything is done. And oftentimes in the manufacturing environment, we do get very busy with trying to do things, and it becomes very easy to kind of forego some of the maintenance type of issues or maintaining and cleaning and making sure that you're putting things back. But it is a habit that definitely needs to be developed and maintained. And if you can get to that habit where you're doing it and putting it and incorporating it in part of your daily routine, it will be a much, much better workplace, and your job will be much, much more enjoyable for you. So in the industry, of course, we're referring to maintaining the machine. All this kind of goes into some of our lean practices, and what we refer to as a lean workspace. So 5S is one of the fundamental building blocks to lean manufacturing. So we'll kind of briefly go over 5S protocol. ISO 14001 is the guidelines for green responsible manufacturing, how we maintain and what we're doing to safeguard the environment. And then, of course, also talking about fire safety as well. So when we talk about maintaining the machine, it does help also to increase the operating or make it easier and less expensive for us to actually operate the cost. If we maintain it, it will be less inclined to break down, or we can keep that kind of scheduled so that we can get more production and be aware of the actual true machining cost here as well. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. Lubrication is a very, very big, important aspect of that. So if we don't keep that machine lubricated, it will break down faster and could potentially lead to damaged machine part components that would be more expensive. So we want to make sure that we're adding the right cutting fluid. We're keeping an eye on our air and hydraulic pressure. We're keeping the machine clean. We're adjusting guards and maintaining those guards and operating the machine the right way as well. So as we talk about getting and staying lean, it's important, of course. It helps us to be efficient. We can be very precise. So it's part of being professional. And of course, the idea here is that if we are doing this, we help to identify forms of waste easier, and we can eliminate some of the forms of waste. So we'll talk more about that in terms of lean manufacturing concepts as we go. So, this class is not part in the ISO 14000 or 14001, but do be aware that some companies out there do follow this particular ISO standard, and you may be required to know more about that in your job as well. Fire safety, anytime we have lubricants and oils and machinery, there's always a chance for fire. So right now, take a look around, make sure that you can identify where our fire extinguisher is, so that you know if should a event happen and occur here in our place. So there is the idea here of a course called PASS, where you pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep, and you always are aiming and sweeping with the fire extinguisher at the base of the fire. so that you kind of try to put that out as well. So, and of course, if anything like that should occur, I would of course be right there to help extinguish that, and we would be pulling fire alarms. So take a look right now, look around the room, make sure you know and recognize where the fire alarm is at here in the shop as well. All right, so in conclusion, main points that you kind of want to get out of this from chapter 1 is to make sure that you fit into and are comfortable in the precision machining shop environment. Now, understand that the clothes that you wear and the expectations for how you dress are going to be dependent on the company that you work for. Some companies are going to require for you to wear their particular uniform. Other companies might say you're fine in jeans and a t-shirt. Some companies and machine shops that I've worked for say jeans or work pants are fine, and then they issue you t-shirts with their particular logo on it. So that's going to be dependent a lot on the company that you go to work for. But it is up to you to kind of know what's expected of you by the management team at that particular company. You will also be able to tell by seeing how your fellow machinists and fellow employees are working as well, and get more training on that as well. So you definitely want to try to put on your best front so that you can be a strong candidate and get advancement if that's something that you choose. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about advancement because most people tend to think of advancement just in terms of moving up and becoming, say, a supervisor or foreman or supervisor or getting into upper management. But I would also maintain that there is a in terms of actual salary increases, there's a lot to be said about just working to be a strong candidate to become the very, very best at what you want to do. You know, not everybody wants to move from a CNC operator into programming or move into management. Some people just want to come into work and become the very, very best at running and operating that machine. And I have a lot of respect for that as well. So keep in mind, one of the big deals here with the trade is more along the lines of just becoming that idea and that mentality of becoming the very, very best at what you do.